Hello all, the Irrational Skeptic here, and today I'm going to be doing a video or beginning a series called the MBTI Shenanigans series, and this is basically a series of videos that I'm going to be doing that deals with a lot of stereotypes within the MBTI community, and basically how I would see each MBTI coming off in certain situations, but trying to be more playful about it. There is some truth in it, and there's a lot of mischaracterizations and stereotypes going on as well, but it really doesn't hurt. It's just a playful way of looking at the types. So today's video is how would each typical MBTI type deal with solitary confinement. And firstly, the ESFJ would say something like, "Get me the hell out of here." In other words, I need human energy. This type is all about interacting with humans. They almost literally consume energy in the environment. This gets them going. This makes them be alive without any sort of human interaction, and this type quickly disintegrates into their lower demons. And next would be the ISFJ, saying something along the lines of, maybe I can use this time to reflect on my behavior. In other words, I probably did something bad to end up here. The ISFJ is, like all SI dominant types, a rule follower. They tend to believe that if they are being punished, it is for some kind of reason. They might not believe the reason, they might disagree with why they're being punished, but in general, they will tend to adhere to the rules. Next, we have the ESTP, thinking of how to seduce guard next time he or she shows up. In other words, the rules don't apply to me. The ESTP will likely try to live with the situation while at the same time trying to mold the situation into something that they could have fun with. They are playful types in a sense, and they would certainly not feel completely trapped. In this example, talking about seducing the guard is something they would have a lot of fun with, and they might even get the guard to be their friend. Next, we have the ISTP, saying something like, "Psst, psst, your fly is down." In other words, laughing his butt off at how gullible the officers are. This is a kind of way of showing power in the intellectual realm. The ISTP in this situation is trying to say that even though you can try to hold me down, I still see your weaknesses pretty clearly, and I have a pretty accurate perception of who you are and what might make you not feel so high and mighty. Next, we have the ESFP, saying something like, "This room is way too small. Are you guys even allowed to do this to me?" In other words, drama queen. This is the type that will show that they have very high standards for living, and not really be so quick to accept being trapped or confined in any small space. They will probably talk the guard's ear off, talking about how unfair the system is and how unfair of what they're doing to him is, and this isn't even allowed to be done to him. He's pretty convinced. They need to let him out of there. Next, we have the ISFP, saying something along the lines of, or doing something along these lines, finds a mouse, then proceeds to make it his or her best friend. In other words, I'm stuck here, I guess I should have some fun. The ISFP is, like all the introverted types, going to not feel the burn as much for being trapped in solitary confinement. Of course, we are all social beings, and so everything that applies to human beings and social creatures applies to everyone, regardless of type, introversion or extroversion. It is just that they will be more likely to find some other way to entertain themselves. And what better than finding a mouse that you can then, play tag with. As for ISFPs, they're usually pretty artistic. So I can see an ISFP telling the mouse to strike a pose as he or she paints her or him in all his or her glory. Next, we have the ENTP. He starts building a contraption he believes will open a wormhole out of the prison. In other words, he's constantly generating possible escape routes. They don't need people for this. This alludes to the inventive capacity of the ENTP. Being trapped in such a situation actually gives them fuel for fire of their imagination. And what better way for them to invent a wormhole generator when they're trapped somewhere that they can't get out of? Emphasis on the word can't get out. They will sure try to prove you wrong. And then next, we have the INTP, saying something like, I have finally found one place where I can have silence and perfect my wormhole generator. In other words, he is skeptically looking at the ENTP, shaking his head, saying, you're doing it all wrong. I really like this one because it is the prototypical INTP, looking at people, thinking that they have a better way of doing whatever it is the person is doing, and that they probably have the right answer and the right solution. Of course, this can be true because they are a type that highly prizes accuracy. And so this will make them look for the best answer to a question, or the most accurate answer to a question. Next, we have the ENTJs, saying something like, time to plan out how I'll take over the world once I get out of here. I'll show them solitary confinement. In other words, revenge is best when planned out. The ENTJ in this situation taking advantage of the fact that they have alone time now to plan out what they would see as revenge upon society for trying to confine them. And they are very rational, intuitive types, and having, I would say, their extroverted sensing as a tertiary function gives them some motivations towards power and not liking really to be suppressed. So in this manner, putting them in solitary confinement is really trying to take away their power, which they might come out and come around and, build a fortress around the planet and sit on top of the fortress while solitarily confining, I don't even know if solitarily is a word, but solitarily confining the world and those who dare trap them. Maybe they'll let a few people out that they like their friends and family. Next, we have the INTJ saying something like, I heard the judge earlier say that he'd be open to reducing my sentence as long as I maintain good behavior. How does one maximize good behaviors? In other words, there are loopholes to everything. The INTJ is sometimes characterized as the mastermind. The reason they would say something along the lines of maximizing good behaviors is because they are trying to break things down into logical bits that can be worked on, and they are actually trying to be pragmatic in their way of getting out of the solitary confinement, meaning they might be aware that there really is no way to break out, and they really can't create a wormhole generator because they don't have any of the tools or equipment required to make a wormhole generator. And it looks like the only thing to do now is to look for a loophole. Maybe if the judge said for every time you go to breakfast on time, we reduce your sentence by 2 minutes. You can be damn sure that the INTJ is going to make it to breakfast on time, and will probably try to find out that if I go earlier, will I get a lesser sentence? If I clean up after breakfast, does that affect it? If I go to sleep on time, does that do anything? And they will play around and tinker with the system, because that is all it is. When you get trapped in solitary confinement, it is the system applying a rule to you, an individual. And you do have the freedom to work within the bounds of that system in order to, increase your likelihood of getting out or decrease it by being stupid. So, next we have the ENFJ saying something like, oh my God, who would have thought I'd end up in this wretched place? Hey, guard, come on, let's party. In other words, when life gives you lemons, this type is the one that sees the whole universe as one big party. I've seen somewhere, I forget where, they've been called the most amazing trolls, and they really are. They are trolling the heck out of humanity most of the time. They have a very keen intuition for knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it. They even have this thing in their voice that is almost like music, that as they speak to you, you can't help but be captured into whatever universe it is that they're bringing you into. And I suspect that this is their extroverted feeling being implemented by their intuition, being able to affect the environment in such a way that they get what they want without really having to do anything, or let's say they'll make you do the things for them while all the while you're thinking that you want to do these things for them. They are very good at mind control. I think that's what I should call it. Next, we have the INFJ. The INFJ will be saying something like, I wonder what Plato is up to, and then go into a meditative trance for the next 10 years. In other words, you can't wall me in because I and the wall are one. The INFJ is usually the most likely type to be into spirituality and to be into the notion that that all is one and one is all. These kind of sayings are usually by an intuitive dominant, and probably an introverted intuitive dominant. The INFJ in this case is also trying to say that they don't really need people in order to exist, and you're also seeing them ignore time, which is an interesting phenomenon. But what they're also saying is that whether Plato existed 1,000 years ago or 1,000 years later, they're gonna go have a talk with him, and they're gonna get something out of it, something to think about. Next, we have the ESTJ, saying something like, oh gosh, I should just kill myself. What's the point of living if it must be in solitary confinement? In other words, what is the swiftest way to put an end to this nonsense? The ESTJ is an extremely realistic type. If they were to be put in solitary confinement with no way of getting out, and they kind of see that their life will just rot away, they really will entertain the idea of putting an end to the movie, putting an end to the show. They don't know what it was like before they were alive, so for them it shouldn't be any better or worse after they're dead, since they were okay with not being alive before they were born, so they will be okay with not being alive after they die. And I am in no way promoting suicide here. I will flat out say here that I do not believe that this is all there is. I won't go into my beliefs, but that's enough for you to know if you were ever thinking of jumping off a bridge, that I don't think that might be the best decision. And in fact, turning around and walking back home might be the best decision you can ever make. Next, we have the ISTJ, saying something like, I guess I just gotta stay down here till my sentence is up. Oh well. In other words, not breaking any rules, I'll just wait. The ISTJ is, like the ISFJ, a strict rule follower. They believe that the rules are there for a reason, and that these rules should be followed. And if they're in there, even if it was an unfair sentence, that they probably broke some rules, or at the very least perceived to have broken some rules, which they will tend to not even argue whether it's a perception or a correct judgment. All they would know is that, for example, you were shown on camera passing a red light, and they show them the picture and they say, oh yeah, that's me, even though they didn't mean to pass that red light. Their ultimate adherence to rules will cause them to take the position that, or take the default position that they were probably on the wrong. Next, we have the ENFP, saying something like, Oh, hey there, Dumbledore. Thanks for coming. Can you get me out of here, please? In other words, I knew meeting Dumbledore at Hogwarts would come in handy. There is no place like home. Clicks heels 3 times. Yes, I know. I'm combining stories, I'm combining plots, I'm mix and matching things that should be in completely different universes. I mean, come on. There's no place like home and Dumbledore in the same sentence. What are we? Tom and Jerry? I don't know. Did that even make sense? But yes, this is the ENFP's mind. Constantly generating alternate possibilities, alternate scenarios. What if this? What if that? What if I was a cactus? What if I was a bottle of water on a table and someone was drinking me right now? What would I feel like? This is the ENFP on steroids. But them being trapped in solitary confinement would, possibly exaggerate these qualities of theirs, and almost all intuitive dominants have this kind of otherworldly thing to them. So maybe she is really talking to Dumbledore, and maybe she did really go to Hogwarts, and maybe there is no place like home. Click, click, click. Lastly, we have the INFP saying something like, "This gives me enough time to write my book on the nature of solitary confinement." In other words, who would have guessed I would have a chance for field study? Amazing. And yeah, this is the INFP at their best, going into the field and finding out what are the deepest, darkest secrets of human nature. Yes, the INFP, sometimes portrayed as the goody, feely two-shoes, are also on the other end of the spectrum, drawn to the darkest, most pervasive parts of human nature. They want to know. They really want to find out what it really means to be human. And with that, I will be finishing this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Are you an ENFP, an ISTJ, an ISTW, ABCD? I don't know. If you're any of those types, maybe down in the comments you can let me know if you would react in any way similar to this, or you can just spam me or spam the comment section saying how you would never do any of that, and that this is so not you, and you are in no way similar to that, and I'm so wrong and I'm so dumb for even making this video. Well, that will be it for now. Wait, not yet. If you can, down in the description I have a link to my PayPal, and if you may, please leave a donation. Anything helps. And I'm gonna end it there. The Irrational Skeptic, signing off.